Greetings from Cheating Story Lab. Share where you're tuning in from below. They claim love is meant to mend, not shatter. But when dwelling with someone who displays an angelic facade publicly while harboring a beastly nature privately, one begins to doubt everything about love, oneself, and the person sharing the same bed every night. I am Michael, and this narrates the tale of how my seemingly flawless spouse came perilously close to annihilating me, and how a family wedding altered everything irrevocably forever. The moment I crossed paths with Chloe at a downtown Portland coffee shop, I believed I'd discovered my other half. She was an animal shelter volunteer coordinator, spent weekends reading to children at the library, and her laugh was contagious, brightening any space it graced. Everyone who encountered her immediately adored her. She was the type of individual who never forgot your birthday, offered soup when you were ill, and spoke no ill words about others. In the initial stage of our relationship, she truly embodied all she seemed: tender, compassionate, and helpful. During my father's heart attack, it was her who drove me to the hospital at 3 in the morning. When I missed a promotion at my engineering firm, she invested numerous hours consoling me and fine-tuning my resume. After 18 months of courtship, we tied the knot. The wedding was a splendid affair. Chloe looked radiant in her grandmother's vintage gown, and when she swore to love me in good times and bad, not a tear was left unspilled in the church. Her family cherished me and vice versa. We appeared to be the epitome of perfection. Approximately 6 months post-wedding, the first altercation occurred. I arrived home late from work. A project had extended past deadline, causing me to stay back. I informed her via text, but she failed to respond. Upon my arrival at 10 in the evening, she awaited me in the kitchen. "You asked, where were you?" Your tone halted me. "At my job wrapping up the Henderson project, I'd messaged you, but I didn't receive a reply." Her voice was serene, yet menacing beneath the surface. Before I could display my phone to confirm, she struck my face forcefully, causing my ears to ring. "Stop lying to me, Michael." Shocked, I stood still. My cheek burned, and I struggled to comprehend the sudden violence. This wasn't the woman I wedded. This wasn't the woman who wept over animal rescue commercials. "Chloe, what's going on?" She hit me again, harder this time. I responded, "Stop lying." I should have walked away then, but instead I found myself apologizing, explaining, and providing evidence to prove my truthfulness. She examined the evidence, and then she was weeping, wailing, wrapping her arms around me and pleading for pardon. She'd been distraught, she explained. She feared something had befallen me. She'd been tense all day, and when I failed to return home at my customary hour, she became alarmed. "I'm so sorry, dear," she whispered against my chest. "I don't know what overcame me. I would never harm you. You know that, don't you? I love you immensely," and foolishly I believed her. However, I forgave her. I comforted her as she cried and told her it was fine, that we would work through it, acknowledging that everyone has difficult days. But it wasn't a bad day. It was the start of 3 years of torment. The occurrences initially began subtly and gradually escalated. A push here, a slap there, always preceded by tears, apologies, and assurances that it wouldn't happen again. She cited work stress, hormonal imbalances, or alcohol consumption as reasons. There was always an excuse, and forgiveness followed afterward. A fervent, tormented forgiveness, making the agony somewhat bearable, perhaps even prompting additional affection for weeks afterwards. Each mishap was met with bringing coffee in bed, hiding sweet messages in lunches, and arranging romantic outings. However, the aggression gradually intensified and the apologies grew shorter. The first instance of using an object, it was a wooden spoon. I had neglected to buy groceries on my way home from work, delaying dinner. She snatched the spoon from the counter and struck my forearm with it forcefully enough to inflict a bruise that lingered for 2 weeks. "Maybe this will help you remember next time," she said, then returned to cooking as if nothing had transpired. The bruises were camouflaged easily. Long sleeves disguised as work-related accidents, but the mental scarring was more challenging to hide. I became tiptoeing cautiously in my own home, scrutinizing her temperament, attempting to predict triggers. The most distressing aspect was upholding the facade in public. Chloe consistently maintained her demeanor towards others, remaining the ideal spouse, devoted companion, and the woman many aspired to marry. She would hold my hand at family events, share laughter over my jokes, and delight colleagues with homemade cookies at office parties, prompting frequent comments about my good fortune. However, unbeknownst to them, the night prior to her company's Christmas party, where she received an award for volunteer service, she had hurled a ceramic mug at me due to my using the wrong type of milk in her coffee. The tipping point occurred during her sister's engagement party. We were all gathered at Amanda's house, where Chloe's younger sister, Amanda, had just become engaged to her long-term partner, Trevor. With about 20 relatives present, we celebrated and made plans for the upcoming wedding. In the kitchen, I assisted Amanda's mother-in-law in arranging food platters when Chloe suddenly appeared beside me. She consistently looked stunning, donning a blue dress that accentuated her eyes while her blonde hair was meticulously styled. "Michael," she said softly, "could you assist me with something in the car? I should have been more cautious. I should have detected the insincere sweetness in her tone as her smile failed to touch her eyes. However, I was engrossed in the festivities, soothed by the wine and laughter from the living room. I accompanied her outside to our Honda parked in the driveway. As soon as we were out of view of the windows, she seized my arm firmly enough to draw blood. "What did you say to Amanda?" she hissed angrily. "What?" she demanded. "We weren't discussing anything specific. Don't deceive me. I noticed how she looked at you when you returned from the kitchen earlier. What did you tell her?" I had absolutely no idea what she was referring to. Our conversation with Amanda throughout the evening was limited to discussing if we needed more ice for the drinks. "Chloe, I didn't say anything," I replied honestly. We discussed the incident where she repeatedly hit me in the ribs, causing significant pain, leaving me struggling to breathe. Later, she threatened me, hinting that if I embarrassed her in front of her family or ruined Amanda's engagement due to my indiscreetness, I would live with the consequences for the rest of my life. I adjusted her dress, touched up her lipstick in the car mirror, and returned to the house as if nothing had transpired. I remained hunched over in the driveway for 5 minutes, trying to cope with the pain on my side. Once inside, Chloe was helping Amanda arrange seating for the wedding, joking around about distant relatives. No one seemed to have noticed my absence that evening. I barely managed any sleep. Agony pierced with each breath I took, convinced at least one rib was fractured, yet it was the mental anguish that overwhelmed this torment would persist. It was my new reality. Taking a day off work, I sought urgent care. The diagnosis: 3 cracked ribs and extensive bruising. The doctor questioned the cause, suspecting my tale of falling downstairs wasn't credible, but he lacked evidence to prove otherwise. Amanda's wedding loomed 6 weeks away. Those long weeks were the most agonizing of my existence. Chloe, stressed as maid of honor, became a dangerous Chloe, hurling objects, breaking dishes, and leaving bruises hidden by my wedding attire. The morning of the wedding, her temperament was sour because her dress required alterations, which the seamstress had botched. While preparing in our hotel room, she began shouting that everything had been spoiled, and her day was perfect, whereas hers had been disastrous due to delays from the final fitting. "This is all your fault," she accused, advancing towards me with a still-hot curling iron in hand. "If you hadn't made us late for the fitting, I was at work. You went to the fitting alone." The curling iron left a blistered burn on my forearm from wrist to elbow. The scent of charred flesh filled the hotel room. I looked at the burn and then the curling iron in her hand. At last, something inside me broke. "Enough," I declared. "I quit." I went into the bathroom and ran cold water over the burn. Upon returning, she was on the bed crying, but I no longer cared. I donned my wedding suit, concealing the fresh burn as well as old bruises, and descended to the lobby. The wedding was stunning. Amanda appeared luminous. Trevor couldn't help but grin, while Chloe convincingly played the role of the devoted maid of honor. Her emotional speech on love and devotion left everyone in tears. She danced with me at the reception, whispering remorsefully in my ear about her love for me. However, during the dinner at the reception, something occurred that altered everything. Amanda's new mother-in-law, Patricia, was seated next to me. Patricia, a nurse practitioner, possessed a unique gaze that medical professionals acquire. During the main course, she whispered softly to me, "Michael, are you okay? You seem to be favoring your left side, just a work injury," I replied reflexively. She nodded but continued observing me. As I reached for my water glass, my sleeve slid up slightly, exposing the edge of my curling iron burn. Patricia remained silent, but her eyes expanded slightly. Patricia cast a glance at Chloe, who was chuckling at something Trevor's brother had said before turning to me. "Pardon me," she stated, rising from her seat. 5 minutes later, she returned accompanied by her husband Tom, a police officer. He settled down on the opposite side of me. "Michael," he whispered, "Patricia noticed you seemed hurt. Is everything all right at home?" I cast my eyes on Chloe, still engrossed in her act, and then on Amanda, brimming with joy on her wedding day. I contemplated spoiling this moment by revealing the truth, but also considered the scene that might ensue and the potential future of concealment. "No," I replied softly, "it's not all right." Tom nodded in understanding. "Would you be comfortable showing us?" I scanned the reception hall, observing most guests engrossed in their conversations or dancing. No one seemed to notice our secluded table corner. Nonetheless, I unrolled my sleeves, causing gasps from Patricia and Tom, audible even amidst the wedding music. The evidence of 3 years of abuse etched across my arms in scars, burns, and bruises at different stages of healing was clearly visible. A fresh curling iron burn still blistered and red on my arm. "Jesus Christ," Tom murmured softly. Amanda, who was conversing with her new spouse, noticed the sudden hush from our end. Upon looking over, she saw my exposed arms, the horrified expressions on Patricia and Tom's faces, and the color drained from her own. "Michael," she whispered, "what has happened to you?" The noise at the table dwindled as more guests noticed something was amiss. Chloe glanced up from her conversation and saw everyone staring at my arms. For a brief moment, her composed facade slipped, revealing a flash of pure fury on her face before she smoothly stood up and hurried over, feigning concern. "Why on earth didn't you warn me it was that severe, Michael? I recall advising you to seek medical attention after the workplace incident, but Tom intercepted before your touch." In a hushed reception hall now, Amanda wept, Trevor shielded his bride, and Chloe's parents pushed through the throng to witness the commotion. "This is preposterous," Chloe exclaimed, her voice escalating. "You tumbled down the stairs at work, remember? Recall the incident, Michael, recount the accident." I gazed at her, a woman who had tormented me for 3 years, with everyone believing she was flawless. I looked at Amanda, whose wedding day I was spoiling. I looked at all the faces expecting an explanation. "There was no accident," I declared distinctly, ensuring everyone could hear. "Chloe orchestrated everything against me for 3 long years." The heavy quietness ensued, then Amanda wept loudly and pandemonium broke loose. Chloe's mother accused me of lying, insisting her daughter wouldn't harm anyone. Chloe was wailing and protesting, asserting I was experiencing a mental breakdown. However, Tom had already contacted backup on his radio, while Patricia snapped photos of my wounds with her phone. The incident culminated in Chloe being taken into custody for domestic abuse. The images captured by Patricia, coupled with my medical records from the urgent care visit, served as proof for the prosecutor. Chloe was found guilty and received an 18-month prison sentence along with mandatory anger management therapy. Amanda's marriage endured the turmoil, but she still sends me apologetic texts on her wedding anniversary. Her family has been very helpful, and Tom assisted in finding a skilled therapist who focuses on domestic violence survivors. It's now been 2 years since the wedding reception. Divorced and residing in another city, I continue therapy to address the emotional wounds inflicted during those 3 challenging years. Certain days can be more difficult than others. Yet I persist, for I am alive and liberated, something I wasn't certain I could declare had I not spoken up that night. If you find yourself in a comparable situation, with someone causing you pain behind closed doors, understand it is not your fault and it is not typical. Love should not leave marks or cause harm. A genuine love does not bring wounds or fractured bones. There are individuals who will listen to your story and assist you. You don't have to endure in silence as I did. Sometimes it takes a wedding celebration and an observant nurse practitioner for someone to rescue your life. Regardless of how it transpires, let someone save yours.